Kia ora whānau. I'd like to share with you a bit of history about our koro here, shown in this photograph in his World War One uniform. About his war service, whilst he was in Gallipoli and at the Western Front. A lot of the whānau know that he was in Gallipoli, but not many knew that he was in the Western Front. All right, just give me the opportunity to explain. And the first thing I want to talk about is Gallipoli, and most in particular about these particular medals here. On this medal here on the left, that is the Gallipoli Campaign Medal, and this one here is the British War Medal, and this is the Victory Medal. The koro got all three, and the Gallipoli Campaign Medal is subject to receiving these two here. Now, to validate his record in receiving this particular medal, or all three actually, but this one in particular, is highlighted here. This is a photocopy of a document from the New Zealand government, and this is in relation to New Zealand military forces in Gallipoli. And the name of that first medal is called the 1914-1915 Star. And it was awarded by King George at the time to all those who served in the Gallipoli campaign. So to actually receive this medal, i.e. This medal here, you had to have served in Gallipoli. So as you can see, these numbers here, 16-736 is the koro's serial number. His rank is private. This is his name, Wairoa Hawke's Bay. And he received this letter from Lieutenant Colonel Andrews asking the koro that your 1914-1950 star is now available for issue. Please state hereon whether you desire that it be forwarded to you by registered post or whether you would prefer to receive it at a military parade in your town or district and return the form to this office addressed as above. And of course the koro elected, I wish to receive my 1914-15 star by registered post. And so therefore he sent that off on the 19th of June 1920, well, that's when he actually signed this, and the New Zealand government approved it on the 19th of July 1920. As you can see here, it says the star forwarded by registered post, and therefore the koro had received his 1914-1915 star. Now the other two medals, in particular the British War Medal here, these particular medals were awarded for those who served in the Western Front. Now when the Gallipoli campaign was over, that's when the British High Command, in conjunction with the Anzac Command, came to agreement to withdraw from Gallipoli. They suffered heavy casualties there and were in dire need of repair and medical attention, as we're all aware of how rough that particular battle was. Now, they all returned to Egypt, and They called in there to rehabilitate and get ready to go to the Western Front. Now, since the New Zealand battalion suffered heavy casualties, especially ones like 7 Battalion from Wellington and Hawke's Bay, and the Otago Mounted Rifles, but especially the Otago Battalion suffered heavy losses. The Māori Pioneer Battalion, who the koro was a member of, well, they were redistributed among those battalions that had suffered great losses. The koro went to the Otago Mounted Rifles, and he remained with them for the rest of the campaign. So when they dispatched from Egypt to France, the koro ended up in a rare position there, where they were therefore reserve only. However, when the main British forces and the rest of the Anzac soldiers went to the front line in Belgium, which is right next door to France, because the main battle, that's where the front line was in Belgium. France was mainly a staging point for all the Allied forces to come together and back up the front line. Anyway, eventually the Pioneer Battalion ended up in the front line because they were in reserve, and they were in the front line very quickly, less than 6 weeks, because of the heavy casualties suffered in the trenches, as you're aware. So onward our koro went throughout that entire campaign. He was wounded in action in 1918, so he's gone a couple of years into the war in all kinds of roles. Yes, and he got hurt. It doesn't specifically say in the records what his injuries were, but it was enough to get him sent back to England to convalesce over there. And then once he was repaired and good to go, he went back to the front line, and he stayed there until the end of the war. And in 1919, with all the rest of the New Zealand troops, they hopped onto the Westmoreland, the ship, and that went to Takapuna in Auckland. And they arrived in Auckland around about the May 1919. But unfortunately, our koro, and among many other thousands of Anzac soldiers who were suffering PTSD, all went to a place in Christchurch and the South Island to get rehabilitated, to settle down so that they could get back into normal living. So as you can see, that these are the medals here. You may ask, what happened to the koro's medals? Well, I know what happened to them. On our wall at home at Cook's Road in Porangaho, this particular photo here, which was in a big frame, with his medals and his discharge, or his service papers, were all mounted in that frame on the wall in the house. When our father passed away in 1980, that whole frame went with him underground, was buried with him. So that's where all those medals are. And so at the moment we have ordered replica medals of that particular campaign, which those who served and are living can wear them on Anzac Day. So I hope this helps, and that this, keeps everybody in the picture, so that there's no doubt. You're asking questions: did he do this? Did he do that? No, I'm trying to tell you, he did. So he was there, and we are so proud that our koro, after 100 years, we are still talking about him and his service to the country, despite all the differences that they may have been feeling at that time. You can see here, that's an image of Nanny there when she was a young lady. All right, okay, I hope that helps out, and thank you for listening. Nō reira te whānau, hei, ko neira.